family friend, Mr. Venkatesh, and all of you who have invited me. I am thankful to Venkatesh on two grounds. One is that he readily agreed when I suggested that this as a topic of my talk in your Saturday meetings. Secondly, I think more importantly, he put a photograph of mine, which is rather old, for which my wife is very thankful for that. He said, "You're looking good." Thank you. Okay, now.
Always looking good, sir.
I'll be joking around. I think we should not be too serious about anything. Actually, whatever happens, happens. That's what. Maybe that is one of the reasons why I'm still alive. Okay. This is a very interesting topic. As Dr. Pai said, yeah, we are sitting on a gold which is buried right under our feet, and we don't even know about it. All we need to do is to dig a little bit and take out. If we don't want to be rich, at least we can enjoy it. It's such a wonderful book that is written by Dr. B. Mahadevan, Vinayak Rajat Bhatt, and Nagendra Pavana R.N. And the book is called Indian Knowledge System. Very thick, about 450 pages. It's an excellent survey of Indian knowledge system. Now, when you talk about Indian knowledge system, we are talking about ancient wisdom starting from Vedas all the way down to Upanishads and other esoteric knowledge systems, as well as exoteric knowledge system. People don't understand that we were on top of the world on many, many areas, not simply mathematics and astrology and astronomy and related sciences, but even psychology, physiology, and related areas we were doing extremely well. Unfortunately, for various reasons, as well as myself, that we suddenly went to a different system, trying to adapt to a system because of external circumstances. But anyway, so the Indian knowledge system consists of all knowledge that our forefathers had held. Till about almost 200 years ago, it was still actively pursued. For example, we are making the best steel in the world 200 years ago. Unfortunately, everything is so both internal and external, subjective and objective knowledge, para and apara vidya, have been followed meticulously by our people. And this is worth knowing about it. We should know why we should talk about this Indian knowledge system. First of all, it is protecting our indigenous knowledge. We should know what it is and we should be proud of it. Very often we confuse pride with ego. We should not do that. Any worker should be proud of his or her work. Otherwise, it's not worth doing any work. You can be proud without projecting on to other people or in the surroundings that you have done a good job thoroughly to the best of your ability. So this is absolutely required. This is what I find very often in our own students, as well as in people who come to work at home or repair, people, the handyman, etc. They're not proud of their work. Why are not proud? You do a good job. It looks nice. It doesn't matter. You are repairing a pipe. You are repairing a motor. You are repairing a TV, or doing a new house. You should be proud of your work and say, okay, this is my work. Look, and be happy about it. And it doesn't have to do with yoga, to ego. So unfortunately, it is not there. We have to be proud of our knowledge system. After all, our forefathers have come out with fantastic knowledge systems. How they acquired, we don't know, but it doesn't matter. That they have practiced it over centuries. So that is one reason why we should know about Indian knowledge system. Secondly, it is related to our culture, our identity. It's also part of it, part of ourselves. We are born here, this time at least, and we are It is part of our identity. And also, as important as all this is that it has an economic value. Now, I'll give you some examples. There are two examples given in the book, neem and turmeric. Now, the neem, somebody, as it happens, always Indians who do this problem outside. Bikram yoga, right? And a couple of Indians joined together somewhere in America, and they put a patent in the patent office in America for neem, for insect killing, etc. And they were granted the patent. And so was turmeric. And turmeric, even more important because we all the time are eating neem, you don't eat too much. And the turmeric is, and it has tremendous antioxidant properties. It is excellent against viral infections that we have seen in the last 2 years. And they took a patent and it was also granted. Fortunately for us, very, very fortunately, Dr. Mashelkar, who was at that time Director General of CSIR, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, he suddenly got to this problem. He said, this cannot go on. You have a whole slew of things in Ayurveda and yoga and various other sciences, and this will be taken advantage of completely. And we have to buy then a patent to make a sambar powder in our homes because it has been granted in America. And he went against it, and they filed a petition about it. Fortunately, in turmeric case, they won the patent. That is, the patent was withdrawn by the Patent Council in America. So there is a tremendous amount of economic impact of this if we do not handle our Indian knowledge system properly. Same thing as I said, Bikram yoga. Some fellow puts together a set of asanas. He says this is most important, and suddenly applies for patent, and he's granted patent. Unfortunately, we're not able to do anything about it. But anyway, so these are the reasons of part of our system, part of our culture, part of our identity, and economically speaking, for all this, we need to know about knowledge system and protect it in whatever way legally possible. Okay, that is why this, and people have been talking about this over the years. It's not as though suddenly Dr. Mahadevan, whom I know very well, and he's a fantastic intellectual in management as well as in Sanskrit and other areas. Not that he suddenly wrote a book like this, but they've been talking about this for past 30, 40 years. Unfortunately, it's all popularized. I was aghast and shocked when there was a report in the newspaper that last Science Congress, in the first day, someone got up and talked about Vimana Sastra or something. Totally ridiculous. Why? Vimana Sastra by one Bharadwaja, we don't know who it is. And somebody has compiled it and say this is Vimana Sastra. There is no way any description of Vimana is given in detail. We cannot construct a Vimana based on Vimana Sastra. It will not fly. We are not at that level, and it's totally impossible to do anything with that knowledge. So that kind of knowledge leads us nowhere. And it is a kind of inferiority complex. This is going on again. Whenever something happens in the West, we say, oh, this is in Vedas. It doesn't have to be in Vedas. It doesn't matter if it is in Vedas or not. What is authentic, what is scientific, what is logical, that we need to pursue and see what has been done. And that's what this book is all about. They are not compromising on scientific quality, and they are presenting in every detail. Many of these, I'll read out the chapter headings, and this is what they've done. And that is why my plea, my request for all of you and your friends and your friends' friends is kindly buy that book. Now, two things are important. When you're buying a book, you are supporting an activity as far as money is concerned. It costs about 800 rupees. And secondly, you are trying to inform that you're interested in this, and you're going to spread this message to your own circle so that they will go through, they'll be proud, and they will know how to support any of these, crazy patenting attitudes that is coming out of Indian knowledge system. Okay, so kindly consider this and do what you can. Okay, so far as the Indian knowledge system. Now, before, I'm not going to do everything from the book. I'm going to give my own ideas from time to time, and that is, first thing is science. Now, many people who talk about yoga, which I listen to often, or Ayurveda, or anything else. There's a lady from AIMS, New Delhi. She's a PhD from Cambridge. She gave a talk in Ramachandra Medical Center here nearby on Ayurveda and quantum physics. Okay, and end of the talk, she gave a reasonably okay talk, nothing fantastic, but she presented some ideas. And the room was filled with about 40, 50 professors and assistant professors of various departments. They're doing good research work there. And one of the professor of physiology got up and said, Madam, why are you talking like this and wasting our time? This is not science. Unfortunately, I was asked to chair the session, chair the meeting. And the vice chancellor looked at me, do you want to answer? Because the lady was not able to answer, and I have to pick up and kind of defuse the situation. And that's what it is. See, people who are talking about, who are good in our traditional knowledge are not exposed enough to science. They are not able to maintain certain postures. They're not able to establish that, for example, yoga is a science or Ayurveda is a science. And that is a pity because, in a big meeting, these questions arise and we'll be able to tell exactly what science is. Now, let's spend a few minutes about what is science. Now, science, we think we'll look at look around and look at big buildings and cars flying around and trains, etc. And you think it is science. No, it is not science. That is, as a consequence of science, the technological development. That's why they say Department of Science and Technology. Department of Science and Technology. So there's a slight difference between science and technology. First of all, when you're talking about science, be sure that every word has a specific meaning, no more, no less. For example, I can say in the morning, I got up and told my wife, oh, I have a lot of energy today. I'm going to give a talk. I can also say, oh, I feel some power. I'm going to give a talk. Now, I'm using energy and power as though they are equivalent. They are not. In science, we look at science in a school and a college or so. Energy is not power. Energy is the one which you pay for when you pay electric bill. Power is something different. Doesn't matter. Let's not go into detail. But what I'm saying is, every word has a very specific meaning and well-defined meaning. So those things we should adhere to. When you say Chitta Shuddhi or Chitta Vritti Nirodha, he says Chitta. He didn't say Manas Shuddhi Nirodha or anything else. He didn't use Ahankara Shuddhi. So he's talking in the second sutra, Chitta Shuddhi. So what is Chitta? Then you have to be, what is it? Equivalent to Chitta in English. There is no equivalent in English. So I keep telling my students, if you write Chitta as mind, don't make sure the paper, your answer book doesn't come to me because I'll give you 0. Because Chitta is not mind. There's a well-defined word, and you go back and find out what the definition is, ask your teacher otherwise, and ask him to define Chitta, Manas, Ahankara, all these entities. But then, that's not the only characteristic of science. Now, science, you should know, modern science, as you say, when I say science, I mean modern science, has certain fundamental assumptions. They assume certain things. The fundamental assumptions are not questioned normally. I'll tell you the exceptions. And out of it comes the whole applications in technology and what we see around us. Now, what is this? What are the assumptions? Now, for example, you are listening to me, you are looking at me, That is because of certain characteristics of manipulating the electrons that ultimately take part in all these activities. So electrons is the basis of activity that is going on, which is making you to listen or look at me. Okay. Now, I asked one of our great intellectuals, a wonderful person, unfortunately passed on 3 years ago, Dr. E.C.G. Sudarshan, George Sudarshan. He's a great physicist, acclaimed world over. He was in Austin, Texas. And he came and spent some time with us. And one of his talks on quantum mechanics, after the talk, I got up and said, "Sir, kindly tell me what an electron is." And he was quick in answer. He said, "Srinivasan, sit down." That was his answer. Of course, he meant it in a jocular way. And ultimately, he said, after some discussion, he said, we cannot define an electron, what it is. Is it a cloud? It is a particle? It is a wave, etc. There are so many ideas about an electron. But as far as technology is concerned, we know how to manipulate an electron, how to send it from here to somewhere else, how to deliver certain things like light or sound or whatever, power, all this which are required for our daily existence now can be done by manipulating the electrons. We know how to get. In other words, we don't know the fundamental particle nature, what it is, but we are not worried about it. Some people look at what an electron is by building huge, accelerators, etc. Their work is a little different. They are looking at fundamentally what is an electron, how to define it, how to capture it, does it have a color, for example, does it have weight, what is the mass of an electron, etc. But as an engineer, my job is not that. My job is to make sure the electron works. And it does. And if I put a magnetic field, if I put an electric field, I know how it behaves and I can manipulate. So the assumptions are not questioned. Like that, fundamental particles, there are plenty of them, and we don't ask questions about them, but we make use of them. Similarly, when you talk about manomaya kosa, annamaya kosa, there's something in between, pranamaya kosa. You can ask me as a scientist, will ask, "Oh, what is pranamaya?" "Oh, you're not talking science, you're talking about prana." We don't know what it is. We are not measuring anything. Of course, we have not measured it. We know the consequence of prana. If it goes certain way, it triggers certain things. If it's not adequate in some parts of the body, it might give you a disease, etc., etc. So we know the consequence. So we can manipulate the prana through breathing or whatever means you have. So even though we don't know the fundamental nature what prana is, we are making use of it for our daily health-related activities. So if you look at this, if you look at both science on one hand and the knowledge system on the other hand, which uses terms such as prana, they are equivalent in the sense that they have certain assumptions. Based on assumptions, we follow the characteristics. We can build things based on that assumption. We can manipulate our systems in the body for health by assuming certain characteristics and interaction of this prana with other entities in the body. So that's important. Hence, as much as modern science is science, so also knowledge systems such as yoga and Ayurveda are also science. So you cannot simply brush aside saying it is not scientific. It is as much as a science. And I have written about it at length about it based on other people's work, and we have to accept it. And that is why it is a science in its own right. Any Indian knowledge system is a science in its own right, and we have to respect that. Within that framework, we can take care of either health or manipulate external events or apply it to other things. Like, for example, I can go to Vastu, I can do something with Vastu. I can do some, serotogenesis, which is health promoting architecture, etc., etc. So So kindly remember, this is what I want to bring in, say that it is as much as science as any modern science is. Okay, coming to the book, something I was thinking about. Okay, now, see, let's look a little bit more at now, in the modern science, modern medicine, life is not defined properly. We don't know. We don't care really in modern medicine. I have worked with enough modern medical scientists to say, no, it's okay. He's alive already. Just some systems are not working. We'll replace it. Okay. Yeah, mechanistic approach to this. But the problem is they're not able to define even death. That's terrible because it is a legal problem. If I declare a man who is alive as dead, I'll be liable for prosecution, right? I'm not doing the right thing because I might not giving the necessary means to come back being alive. Unfortunately, very often, not very often, but there have been a lot of cases, thousands of cases in the West, as determined in the hospitals. People have been declared dead, but in a half an hour or 1 hour or 2 hours, they will come back to life. If this be the case, definitely the definitions on which death is based is not correct. Their view of death is not correct. The view of life is not correct, of course. It is also not correct. Now, there is a journal that's been running for 20 years called Near-Death Studies. You can look at it in Google. And it'll tell you all kinds of clinically valid people who have been declared dead clinically have come back to life, and what they've seen, what they've felt, what they've, etc., has been well documented over years and years. Now, so the science will progress. They will do something else to define that better. Similarly, what we can do is we have to take, the question is, can we supply some information from our knowledge system so that they can understand what life and death is? It is not saying, see, all the time, because of what we have gone through in the last 300 years, we always say, somebody says quantum mechanics, immediately somebody gets up and says, oh, it is there in Vedas. Or says this electrical powered cars, EV, oh, it is an Upanishad. Oh, we know about it for thousands of years. No, we don't have to do that. Please don't do that because people only laugh outside and it is not even valid statements. There are new things that come up in a new way, that's fine. And the whole thing so my interest is, how do we look at, for example, yoga, which I know a little bit, say, okay, what is the contribution of yoga to modern science? It's not that yoga is being analyzed through modern science, but can I give something to modern science so modern science can give a direction to modern science based on this knowledge system? It is possible. And that's what we have to be aware of and try to expand the knowledge base of today based on our knowledge system that we have from ancient past. Okay. Let's start the book now. As I said, it is a very well written book. There's only one mistake, not really mistake. I wouldn't say called a mistake, but a funny incident that, when you are a professor for 200 years, then only the things which are hits your eye suddenly, which is not correct, or not exactly what you're looking for. Only one unusual phenomenon I found is a reference to T.M. Srinivasan, published a paper there, which is not myself. There's somebody else. There's another guy by same name. So beware of that. Okay. So the book is divided into 14 chapters, starting with Vedic wisdom. Of course, that's our ancient Vedic wisdom. And that's where we bring in Atma. I don't want to define what it is. It has a very specific definition. And if you look later on, sciences such as yoga and Ayurveda, they talk about Atma. Science Vedic wisdom, science and technology, number system, astronomy. Strangely, I was looking for, but I have not read every word, every page in the book. So I've had it only last 10 days or so. Astronomy, and I have not seen the word astrology. Metal technology, town planning, psychology, health, wellness, governance, public administration, etc. I don't know what is not covered in the ancient system. They've covered every aspect of human existence. Also, see, all the systems has an endpoint in view. Every system you're teaching a young girl or a boy dance or music or fine arts of some type or painting or iconography, go to a temple, taken to that. All these relate to our Purushartha and ultimately moksha. Every single activity that we do is towards this ultimate goal. Unfortunately, the modern science has no goal. There is no goal for it. You build more buildings, you build more whatever, you build more towers, you build more train lines. Okay, there's no endpoint. That's why, see, we have to bring that endpoint to science. What is the ultimate aim of science? And unless there is an aim for this, the moral fabric gets to be looser and looser. We ultimately fall through those little holes in the moral fabric, unless we are very, very careful. So that's why, see, we look at all the arts. If you look at that, then it is integrating the person entirely. It's not simply that you are, see, for example, I go back my school days, probably 75 years ago in Ramakrishna School in Chennai. And they have an inspector coming every year to ask questions to the classes and see if the teachers are doing a good job, evaluating the existence of the school, is it okay or not. And one inspector came to our class, I remember so well still. He drew a little boy on the board, on the chalkboard. He drew a big face and head and little arms and body and rest of the body. And he asked what this is. Class. I mean, this is, I cannot get up and say this is out of portion, sir. No, it is out of portion. What are you thinking about it? What do you think it is? And we boys and girls, and there are no girls in the class. There will be boys just said one or other, somebody, oh, he's a very brainy child or something. But what it is was, if I look at it, it is a Western concept that you keep on feeding the brain with something. If not, now you have this to do with your telephone or something else. And they think that is the end point. That is not the end point. So that's why, as I said, when it comes to especially music and related arts, you are calibrating and equalizing the left and right hemisphere of the brain. And that is very important. That's why Carnatic music or Hindustani music, it is very important that our children learn, not only because it's our culture, our past, but also because it gives positive inputs to the brain growth and for the personality. Okay. One of the first chapters to think about this book is linguistics. Very interesting. He goes in depth. At these 14 chapters, there is not one single chapter I can understand completely. Okay, don't tell anybody. Don't tell my wife. Because the depth of knowledge that the authors bring in is so profound, so nice. It gives me great pleasure that I'll be reading it several times over before I can understand completely what the authors are saying. Because that's what our system is. It has impact on every area of aspect of activity. And one, like take linguistics, grammar, Sanskrit, Samskrita. Samskrita is such a fantastic language that now people want to codify it and put the knowledge system through Samskrita as a language in the computer. I don't mean Sanskrit used as a computer language, no. The way that knowledge is codified in Sanskrit would also be codified as an algorithm in a computer. And IIT Kanpur has done a lot of work. We had a conference in 1985 or so when a small paper in one of the small journals on computers in California aroused interest of a lot of people. And that was about using Sanskrit as an interlingua between different languages. I'll come to it in a minute what this. So we had a conference, sorry. And the way it can be done is that the knowledge base can be brought as a platform through which we can refer to other Indian languages. For example, if you want to translate Gujarati to Marathi in going through a computer automatic translations, then you can go through knowledge base of Sanskrit. But that's okay. Gujarati and Marathi languages are close to each other. How about Gujarati to Bengali or Oriya? Now that's a little bit more longer step. How about Gujarati to Tamil? That is a very difficult step. Anyway, the Kanpur people, IIT, have done this work on interlingua, at least some of the North Indian languages, automatic translation from one to another can be done based on the knowledge system. Because Samskrita is, I think what I understand, I may be wrong, but bear with me. There are no new words. There are words, words are given in Panini's Ashtadhyayi, and based on, you can combine, go through an algorithm as it were, with a verb and bring out new words. In other words, you can generate new words from the basis that they have given. And that is what is important. Any word, in other words, I can go to extreme and say there are no new words and you can bring out in Sanskrit. All words are codified. Example. This is where, my dear Venkatesh, I'm going to ask you a question, okay? I'll give you an answer also. It's very simple. Now, I'm going to give a number. Venkatesh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, I'm going to give you a number. Just listen to this. No trick question, not a trick question. I'm trying to make a point. So just listen to the number and tell me if you have heard that number earlier or not. Okay, so give a number, listen to it, tell me yes for you've heard before, no, you've not heard. Okay, the number 13,457,222. Have you heard this number before?
No, sir, please.
No. Thank you. That's what I was hoping. So now I'm very smart, I know about it. So what I'm saying is, this is a new number I have invented. I'm going to take a patent on that. And I'm going to charge anybody who's going to use this number. And I'm going to make this as an important number. What does Mr. Venkatesh says? Venkatesh will say, Sir is getting old. He has to be careful. He's not okay mentally. Okay. And truly so. If I say that, truly so. So in other words, what I'm saying is that in a arithmetic system, there is a way of generating numbers, and all numbers are coded in this. Every number, it may be you've not heard that before, but you can generate similar numbers, thousands of them, right? So to claim it's a new number is not correct. Why I'm saying this is because, okay, I don't want to say the name. A great musician suddenly said this is a new raga. And I'm sitting there, the new raga cannot be. There are no new ragas because they're defined. You have defined the arohana, everything else. There cannot be a new raga. So that's why you see, going back, Sanskrit as a language has enormous potential in bringing new type of codifying computer working. Okay. Then there are a chapter on number system in units and measures. You know that we introduced zero, and it was without zero. The whole number system from the West is chaotic. You cannot do any multiplication. You can't even add things because there is no specific indication of a zero. And this is totally different. So that we cannot, nobody can go away from it, the number system, units of measurement. Very interestingly, it is said that Siddhartha, before he became Buddha, Siddhartha went to a Swayamvara apparently, before he got married. He went to Swayamvara. This is from the book I read. And one of the masters there is asking questions for each person, each prince who walks in. And this man asking, Siddhartha, tell me the name of the powers of 10. Each power of 10 has particular name. Okay, 10 power 2, 10 power 3, 10 power 4, 10 power 5, 10 power 450, 10 power 450, which means 1 followed by 450 zeros. There are specific name for each one of them. And apparently, Siddhartha, who was to become Buddha, knew everything. And they even went downwards, otherwise, 1 by 10, 1 by 100, 1 by 1000, each one has a name. So look at the way that systematized. Anybody says it's not systematic? Yeah, it is highly systematic. I was reading, for example, Garbhopanishad. Garbhopanishad, every month has of the pregnancy has a specific name. And for unfortunate reasons, a mother to be loses the 3rd month, for example, there's a particular name for that month, the child which is not able to survive. So like that, there's codification and classification at the highest level. Mathematics, of course, Indian mathematics is, again, it talks about square root, cube root, all kinds of algorithms, and trigonometry, geometry, all this is very well dealt with in the book. Astronomy takes a great deal of explanation and talks about, we knew very well that sun was the center and we're going around. Even in simple books in astronomy, astrology, they'll talk about it. But they made an assumption. They know they're making an assumption. They said, okay, for astrological purposes, for calculation.
Speech
Big one.
Go ahead.
I'll take another 5 minutes and finish this.
No problem. Go ahead.
That one of this thing, they make an assumption that for astrological calculation, we'll keep Earth at the center and the sun and planets going around. Very clear statement is made. And we will not follow the scientific method of keeping sun as a center because it becomes calculation becomes very complicated. Metals and metallurgy. We were on top of the world in steel making till about middle of 19th century. Not in ancient past here. There is a steel which is called Wootz, W-O-O-T-Z, Wootz steel, which was sought after all over the world for making swords. Most famous swords were made in Damascus, and Damascus steel was basically from India, where they were able to make steel which is very pliable, at the same time very strong. This was most sought after, and what we were sending shiploads of these to various parts of the world, especially Near East. But when the British came, they looked at this, the enormous amount of wealth this export was creating, and they taxed very heavily all these mines and the working spots which are producing the steel. And in a matter of about 30 to 50 years, the whole thing collapsed. And unfortunately, I was thinking, Will this ever happen? I hope not. This is the disadvantage of by hearting like Vedas. All these years we were able to maintain. Let me finish the steel. All the steel making was in various families. They were doing it out of their own practical experience over millions of years. And they didn't share it, they didn't write it down. So we have no written records of how to make that steel. And we are trying, and many people have tried and not succeeded in exactly the steel. Same with even Ashoka pillar in Delhi, for example. It doesn't rust. We are not able to reproduce it exactly because also things have changed. Same with Ayurvedic medicine. The medicine that we get today is grown today. Herbs grown today, which have not the same potency as it was 100 years ago. 100 years ago. Okay. Iron, steel, copper, mercury, iron pillars, all this, and figures of gods and goddesses, making them, all this is done. Engineering and technology applications, in chapter 11, it talks about irrigation system, town planning, areas, that is water bodies. For example, there were about 200 to 300 water bodies around Chennai. Now there are only 4 huge ones. So you can see the consequence of not only lack of town planning in the recent past, but also amount of difficulties with respect to water. And of course, people, if you are from Bangalore, you know very well what the problem is. 64 kalas, medical science, skills, beautifying the body, in the face, for example. We used to, in some cases, we used to cut off the nose. We know from Ramayana. Even in 1800s, books on medicine from England, they had what is called a Madras flap. They'll take skin from nearby and cover it up the lost portion. And after a while, they can redo it so that you can rebuild the nose or the ears which are lost for whatever reason. Health and wellness takes an important area where we talk about what is health, unless we bring in what is life, and how to maintain life, what is a Dinatarya, Rutucharya, all these things are taken up. And the 3 dosha theory is introduced with Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. 3 gunas for the mind, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, Panchakosas. And again, what is the ultimate end point of all this is discussed at length. So, in other words, it's an excellent book. Kindly do look at it. Get your libraries to buy it. Get your universities to, get samples. And I am trying to ask the authors to not have such a book for schools. For school reading, maybe 1/4 the size must be made compulsory for all students at the 11th and 10th standard, so that, as I said earlier, we are not only proud, but we have the greatest responsibility of trying to steer science, which seems to be blind, in direction where it will really benefit humankind, not in maintaining health only, not in acquiring money only, but also ultimate liberation from all kinds of problems. Thank you.